Rory, Pedro, Esteban, Andy. Hello? Can I get 50 thumbs ups in the chats if we're ready to go? I'm waiting for 50. I see some okay signs. Sam, I'm digging your whole aesthetic today. Thank you. This is a supreme, I don't know, windbreaker neck gaiter thing. It has like this like cool material, and it says windstopper on the side, and I just like wear it around my neck because like San Francisco's like a little bit. It's like usually 50 here. I also don't know which camera I'm supposed to be looking into right now. I think I'm here. I'm in the middle camera. Okay, great. We have all the thumbs ups. Switch to live chat. Thank you for the reminder. All right, thank you for spamming the thumbs up. Okay. Some feedback I received on the stream is to not have the laptop. So chat, it's been real. I'm going to just lower this to give Gary my full undivided attention. If anything goes wrong, Colin's back there running the stream. Thank you, Colin. Glad to have you here. Colin's second. Wow, already 2 full weeks. Today's Friday. Crazy. To think that I was doing all this by myself and now I have help, it's wonderful. Because now I can like focus. Yeah, and now we also have like real well, not that the lavs weren't real microphones, but this is official now.
This is real.
Okay. Hi, Gary. Thank you for taking the time today. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Gary Schultz. Gary is one of our industrial designers here at Humane. Gary works on hardware. And that's about as much as I'll say about what Gary does here at Humane because we still have not announced anything. But as most of you know on the stream, I like to rewind the clock and get the full scope and story on who you are as a person, and eventually like how you got to Humane. And if we go backwards, I'm pretty sure it's Humane, not Apple. You were at IDEO at some point, right?
Yes.
But I'll let you, Gary. The floor is yours. Ladies and gentlemen, Gary Schultz.
Wow. Thank you. Pleasure being here. Thank you. This is an honor being amongst your group, this big production. Yeah, thank you.
Of course. I'm glad you're here, Gary.
Yeah, thank you. So we brought in some fun stuff to show, and I want to talk about a little background, I guess, as well.
Yeah, let's start from the beginning. Where are you from?
Okay. Born in Detroit,
wow.
So Midwestern is where family was from originally. My father was an engineer, my mother an art teacher, my grandfather a musician and scientist as well. So I kind of combined all that together into what I found and liked and enjoyed. And and sort of fell through into this thing of industrial design through playing with Legos and, like every kid in the 60s and 70s, just doing stuff with your hands and building stuff. And
I think Patrick Gates said the same thing also. Maybe he was talking about his kids or Colin, if you can remember. I feel like someone here at Humane mentioned playing with Legos, and it's just this notion of using your hands, creating things. You have like a pile of bricks. And, it's up to you to create. I mean, you could follow the guide, sure. Yeah. I was going to ask, computers growing up, I usually ask, like, what was your introduction to using a device, maybe to do some designing, drawing, maybe playing games? Did you have a computer in the house growing up?
Yeah, first one, Mac 512E, which is the one.
I don't even know what that is.
Which is one of the early Macs with a disk drive in the front.
Wow.
And the
floppy drive.
Floppy drive.
Yeah. Not a CD drive. Not yet.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing at the time that my dad got that and brought it home. My brother and I, didn't look at the manual or anything. We just opened it up and started firing away. How old were you? High school, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you remember, like, the first time a computer was brought into the house?
Oh, yeah.
Amazing. Wow. And you had never used a computer before that?
No, we never had anything before that. Wow. There were some programming classes in school, but I wasn't that involved in it. And the funny thing was, because there was only one drive, basically one piece of memory, which was the disk, as soon as you wrote something, you had to take the disk out, put in the other disk. And then, so you were doing this little dance of putting disks in and out in order to save and write and save and write.
That was the memory of the computer? Like, you couldn't write to a hard drive?
Right. So it was this odd thing, but we figured it out and we did, drawings on it and everything.
So you were already interested in this, the industrial design aspect from a young age.
Oh yeah,
because
definitely.
You were exposed to it all from your family.
Yeah.
Do you remember what program came on that Mac 512E?
Mac Draw.
Wow.
Maybe there was a.
And you had to point and click and
Yeah.
move the mouse like
Yeah.
no Wacom stylus back then, or
Oh, God, no.
tablet. Yeah, no.
It was the big clunky mouse with the big one button,
Wow.
all beige. But
Wow.
it was a beautiful Mac, and it worked well. We got it working.
Did you do you have any of those drawing saved somewhere, you think, on a disc?
Not for the Mac.
Okay.
All the hand drawings. I did a lot of drawing back then too. We'd just go after school, and I'd either play the drums or I'd draw. Didn't do probably as much homework as I should have done, because my parents wanted me to do better.
What were you drawing?
I was drawing everything from cars to stereo equipment to, anything that was of interest at the time. Usually something music based.
Was it something that you were using a reference with, or were you drawing from up here?
There were some magazines, yeah. But then, creatively coming up with ideas and just drawing things out and doing experimentations and see, what do I like this? Do I like that? Do I want to try another variation? And I remember sending off a drawing to one of these audio companies, and they kind of wrote back a nice little letter and said, "Thank you so much. Keep up the good work." But it was good. It was, inspirational to keep trying it. And I didn't know what industrial design was back then.
So it went from you being sort of like an artist in a sense, right? Like you're creating art for the sake of just making, right? But then you take that one step further and you incorporate design into it, where you're not just recreating something that you see in a magazine, but you're putting your own Gary spice into it.
Definitely.
So that's how it sort of started for you.
Yeah, and learning all those basics of, I didn't know it at the time, but gridding things and proportions and shapes and all that kind of stuff. I just kind of worked through by observing and experimenting. And
there was no internet. There were no YouTube videos to watch on how to be an industrial designer.
Yeah.
Was that term even around back when you were a kid?
Well, there was. It was mostly automotive design. That was the big one. There were stylists. There was, since the 50s, Harley Earl started the whole automotive design thing at General Motors.
Is this one of the reference images you have?
In that whole era?
Yeah.
So I was lucky enough later on then to go to Art Center College of Design in Pasadena, and the teachers had studied and worked with people like Harley Earl and all the big early 50s car designers, and then came back, and I was there in the late 80s, 90s, when they were kind of finishing up their careers and really instilling this old world school of craftsmanship and detail and quality that really carries through to everything we try to do now.
So you went to art school.
Yep.
What did you study, like major?
Well, I went to music school first, actually, and tried to make it as a musician for a while and played. And
you were in a band?
Yeah, I was in a couple bands and played in a big band and did some orchestra work too. And I kind of lived that whole career for a while.
Wait, Gary Schultz is a musician also? You toured with bands? What, do I know the name of this band?
No, you don't.
Before my time?
Big band.
Called the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Played in a punk band for a while. Played at the Rat. It's just, we had a jazz band, and this is all in Boston when I was in music school. And kept up the design work stuff just on the side for fun.
So you were a full-time musician?
Yeah, just as much as I could and survive.
Wow.
Well, day job, but my night work for fun.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So you kept up. Do you still play now?
Yeah, I still play quite a bit.
You have equipment at home?
Just little kit, my same old kit set up.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, I had no idea until right now. That's crazy. Wow. Okay. I feel like the overlap is not really there for being able to do design like that and like hold a rhythm with drumsticks, like sure you need the ability to use your hands like that, but it's like one doesn't really complement the other. Wow, that's crazy. And I guess again, from childhood being surrounded by creatives like that, whether it was, father, mother, grandfather, it's like you're surrounded by that stuff as a kid, and you just sort of like, without even really trying to, you just like absorb it all.
Right.
And then it becomes, it's not like you're being tasked with like, oh, Gary, it's time for your drum lesson. It's just like, it's something that you wanted to do. It's something that you felt passionate about in a sense. Okay. So the touring musician Gary came after college.
Yes.
Okay.
Music school first.
Music school. Then you were a full-time. Well,
yeah.
your day job was a musician.
Yeah.
Okay. And then?
Figured out I probably needed another day job as well. So yeah, I followed my brother to art center. He's a designer as well, and and then found this love and passion for design as well. And the group of people there, the professors were so inspirational and so hard on us.
For a good reason,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, to make you better.
Yeah.
So you're in your mid-20s going back to school?
Yeah, mid-20s. Yeah, finally got out in 93.
Mm-hmm. And this is, again, way before any of the sort of modern computing equipment that we have today. You know, like you couldn't just go to CompUSA and buy a, RTX 2090.
No.
You know, like I can't even imagine how slow and painful designing and rendering on machines back in, was that even a thing back in the early 90s?
Yeah, we had Silicon Graphics 4035s in school, which were a big beige box. And this is the beginning of Jurassic Park and all the sort of visual effects at ILM and pre-Toy Story. So there hadn't been a full computer animated film out yet. So my first real gig was at IDEO, a design consultancy, and I was the sculptor designer there. Had one Silicon Graphics machine, which cost an insane amount of money.
I'm sure.
And
what is IDEO?
IDEO is a design consultancy which was founded by David Kelly and Bill Muggeridge, offices in Palo Alto and San Francisco. And we did everything from NEC computers to the whole range of products. Very, very much hands-on industrial design firm for companies.
So they would hire you guys to make them visual assets, graphic things.
Physical design, like actual, their next computer monitor, we would do concepts, we do models, the sort of traditional.
So you were designing computers using computers?
Yep, early on.
Okay. Yeah. How long were you at IDEO for?
A short period of time. And then I started getting the buzz of, well, I'm doing stuff on the computer, and there are people out there who are really doing stuff on the computer, like at LM and film, and Toy Story had just come out.
The original one?
The first one,
Okay,
yeah.
And that was the first animated complete. Is that true?
Yes, 1995.
Toy Story is the first fully animated, I guess, like Who Framed Roger Rabbit is like a composite sort of thing, but fully animated, computer-generated imagery.
Yep, fully.
Wow, is the original Toy Story. Okay, today I learned. Okay. And then you managed to get yourself at Pixar.
Yeah, right? I applied for a position in the interactive game group. They wanted an industrial designer to take the Toy Story characters and design video games for these products. And so I came in, and as soon as I joined, about a couple months after going through their technical training class.
Oh, so you were still learning.
Yeah, still. We had people from MIT and Princeton, in the class doing.
Wow, and there's like former punk rocker Gary just like,
how do you program?
Wow. So you applied for the job and got it.
Got it. Yeah, came in.
Wow.
And as soon as I joined, we had a meeting with Steve Jobs, who was CEO at the time, and he pulled us into our little conference room and he said, "Folks, I'm sorry, but we're not going to do CD-ROM games anymore. So, but good news is we're going to find a position for you somewhere else in the company."
Saying this to all of you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which was only, it was 15, 20 of us. It was a small group.
Oh, so it was a group that was going to be designated to make CD-ROMs.
Right.
Based off of the IP of, wow,
Yeah,
okay.
Nice. So I'd heard that they were working on Toy Story 2, and there was a villain in the film who was a collector, and he loved 50s stuff, and he needed a car. And I thought, this is my opportunity. So Art Center, you take product design classes, but you take car design classes as well. And I grabbed all my drawings from Art Center and went over to the art director and said, please, please, please let me design the car for Alan McWiggin, the main character. And I said, yeah. So I went in and We had a crazy production where they decided to redo the entire film 9 months before release, something like that. And so we had to design all kinds of sets and airplanes and cars and all kinds of stuff. So it was super intense, but a dream come true. Incredible experience.
Making those digital objects from scratch?
Yeah. So it's the same process as industrial design. You
Open up a blank file, or I guess you start with a sketch.
start with a sketch, start with an idea. You sit down with the director, come up with an idea what something could be, grab a bunch of reference, draw it out, jump on the computer, build a little model. And then, in differences in film, you're giving it to an animator or lighting or shading person. You're not making a product.
Do you do the rigging?
No, that's
something separate.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you just sort of build the object and then hand it off, and they bring it to life.
Oh, yeah.
So you worked on Toy Story 2.
Yes.
What else have you done with Pixar?
I had a lot of great opportunities, different films, Ratatouille, Bug's Life. We jumped on and did some.
That.
Yeah. And then, you kind of adapt yourself to whatever the film is and the media. And then early on, I'd heard that that director was going to do a car film with the cars as the characters. So I jumped on to Cars.
That's right up your alley, huh?
Yeah, that was good.
And you designed some of the cars inside the original Cars movie.
Right. Yeah, incredible process where we sit down with story and they would come up with a character. This is an old guy, voice. We want to have Paul Newman do the voice. What do you think the car should be? And we'd say like, oh, okay, well, 50s Cadillac, Buick. Oh, how about a Hudson Hornet? Yeah. That has race history. That ties in with that. And they did a little, two-door coupe. And we'd start doing drawings. Bob Pauly, Jay Schuster, Jay Ward, some of the other designers in the group, and flesh out the details and then just geek over all the little tiny automotive details. It's an incredible experience. Really fun.
You obviously probably saw the movies on the big screen, right? You get invited to what does it feel like seeing your work on a screen like that? And also your work has been seen by, hundreds of millions of people. What does that feel like?
It's totally surreal. I mean, because you work on something for so long, but you don't see every aspect of it. You don't see the final cut until the final screening. So there are elements that really are surprising, and it's the whole experience of it as well. This whole thing rendered with lighting, with the music you've heard bits of, but all put together. Wow. It's really fun.
So Toy Story 2 was the first movie you worked on at Pixar.
Bug's Life. But Toy Story 2, yeah.
And what else? Cars, Ratatouille,
Presto, which was a little short film. Mm-hmm. Monsters, Inc.
Wow.
All the mechanical stuff in Monsters, Inc. I got to work on some of that stuff. And yeah, it was fun.
Wow. How long were you at Pixar?
12 years, 11, 12 years, something like that.
And then the story goes that Mr. Schultz left Pixar and went to a tiny little startup from California.
Doing little products.
Yep. So you went from Pixar directly to Apple.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Before we get into that, we have... You want to talk about what... I guess, Colin, go to the wide for this. This is one of the aliens from Toy Story. The Claw. If anyone's seen Toy Story, I would imagine hopefully everyone in this chat has seen Toy Story. This is a 3D print of one of the aliens. This whole thing, I mean, not the wood block, but this is a 3D print. Why do you have this?
So we'd had a really fun side project, which was the anniversary of Pixar, which we presented at MoMA in New York. And that included all the artwork and the maquettes that were done, and everything.
Some of the what?
Maquettes, little hand sculpted models of the characters.
Like clay models, or whoa?
Clay models, yeah.
Okay.
And there was a group that wanted to do something really, really special for the show. So there's a Japanese director named Miyazaki who has a studio a museum at Studio Ghibli in Japan, where they built a physical zoetrope. So before...
What is a zoetrope?
before film, there's you've probably seen these cylindrical discs with slots in them.
To like it goes around and it creates like frames per second and it creates moving images.
Right.
Okay. The same thing can apply to
Yes.
physical objects. And that's the name of it, zoetrope?
Zoetrope, yeah, yeah.
Is the same one that they use for moving images?
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Okay.
So
Colin, you want to pull it up?
Yeah.
Okay. There's a video that we can watch of the thing that you actually worked on.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. You should be able to see it on the stream. The claw.
Still images every second. It's like a flip book. As I flip through here, you can see that each drawing is a little different than the last one. And then as I flip through at speed, the illusion of movement is created.
Pixar really wanted to show the public how animation works, and one of the ideas to do this was to build something called a zoetrope.
Zoetropes go back to the 19th century. If you imagine a barrel with little slots and images, each a little different from the last, it's like a shutter, and it shows you a little glimpse of that drawing across the way, and they appear to move. Studio Ghibli has this amazing three-dimensional zoetrope. John Lasseter had seen the zoetrope there, and I think he said, I've never seen an object that so well describes the basic premise of animation. When it was suggested that we do one for ourselves, it was a no-brainer. Instead of drawings, we're using sculptures. So what you're seeing are 18 different sculptures, each slightly different than the last one. And instead of flipping through them, we're using a strobe light to make those images stick in your eye. And these spinning images freeze in space. And each sculpture replaces the last one and appears to move. It's stunning because it looks like it's come to life right in front of you.
I think that the zoetrope is the clearest explanation of animation because on the disc, you get to see every frame of animation before your current frame where you're looking and every frame of animation after it. Here you have the opportunity to see the tricks the animator used to make things move.
It's a very simple mechanism, it's a very simple idea, but somehow seeing that come to life right in front of you is really fantastic.
Wow. Oh my God, it looks like fluid in a sense. So Gary, you worked on making the zoetrope or doing the building of the assets for the zoetrope?
Yeah, so me and my friend Mike were tasked with getting a 3D printer and figuring out how to print on the machine. And we found one that printed in color was the best way to do it instead of painting each one.
When did you make this?
My gosh. Sorry, early 2000s.
There was 3D printers back then? Like good ones?
Sorry, 20. Oh my God. I'm sorry.
What year is it?
I have no idea.
At some point in the last 15 years,
this
thing was made. This was for the anniversary of Pixar.
Yes.
And was there only one zoetrope in the museum?
Yeah, we built one for the show.
Okay. In the MoMA.
In the MoMA.
So you can confidently say, factually speaking, that you have to hit on the back. Yep. That your work was in the MoMA.
Yeah.
That's pretty not scary. That's really cool.
Really exciting to be able to walk in and see it there, and the process of building these guys was impossible. We figured it out. And every print would fail. And
I mean, that's just like the
things
nature
would
of
fall off.
doing 3D printing, right? Like we were talking about before. You could you set it and you forget it. And George is in the stream, GK. Like you set it, you forget it, and then the wind blows and your thing gets knocked off and you have to redo the whole print. I don't have a 3D printer, but I've always been fascinated by 3D printers. Like this thing looks like, it was like, made in a factory, that looks like it was like mass produced. Because here you can see, and the eyes are finished with a different material, so they're like shiny. It's really, really cool. And I just hear this in my head, the claw burned into my memory. So you went from Pixar straight to Apple?
Yeah. It comes back to friends, actually. That's where I've been so lucky. I had a friend from Art Center who was at IDEO who brought me in. And
wow.
I was
Wait, a college friend also worked at IDEO with you.
Yeah.
And then brought you to Apple.
I happened to be visiting him at lunch one day at Apple, and he said, "Hey, come on in," and brought me into the secret industrial design studio there in Cupertino, and interviewed for a long time, and sort of convinced them that I could work from film to
Yeah,
product.
that's a pretty big difference of making animated characters to making objects that are, physical and tangible in the real world. I mean, this might have been the sort of like the stepping stone to get to something like this. What year did you join Apple?
That was 2007. So that was right after the release of the phone.
After the release of the phone.
Yes.
So mid to late 2007.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's right before the MacBook Air.
The original MacBook Air that Steve pulled out of the envelope.
Right.
With the song "I'm a New Soul" walked in. Yeah, that's crazy. I remember that because I was going into college, and one of my friends had that MacBook, and still, I mean, looking back on it, still pretty dang impressive.
Right.
The whole presentation. You didn't work on that MacBook, did you? No. That was done before you got there.
Yeah.
Were you a little nervous, going into Apple of like, wow, here's this gigantic company, and I mean, Pixar pretty gigantic also, but what was the transition like for you to going from designing, characters, animated characters that have personality in life to like, material objects that I guess to some degree have, personality.
Definitely.
But yeah, walk me through.
Yeah, I mean, and totally intimidated. The level of care and craftsmanship and the expertise in that group was incredible, and I had so much to learn very, very fast. I think the one connection was just attention to detail.
Mm-hmm.
But you understand really quickly that these people have an incredible eye, and that's the thing that really makes a difference. Is they can look at something and say, no, that's not concentric, or that doesn't feel right, or this needs to be pulled in or widened, or whatever little detail. And that took a lot of work, honestly. You think you're at some sort of level when you're working, and then you meet people who have a totally different level, and they bring you up, luckily.
And so it's almost like a different, you're playing the same game, but in a different field in a sense.
Yeah.
Where you have to I guess you maybe rough around the edges isn't the correct term, but when you're animating, maybe you can get away with like a pixel here, a pixel there, versus this is like these products are made to perfection.
Right.
Or as close to perfect as you possibly can. So you joined Apple in 2007. Wow. So that's around the time of the iPhone, but like pre-iPad, pre-Apple Watch, like when Apple was like still this like, oh, Apple's making a phone? Apple's like a computer company. What business do they have making a phone? And now I say it on every stream. Well, Apple sold 1 billion iPhones, so, who's laughing now? Talk me through some of the things that you had the opportunity to work on at Apple, Gary.
Yeah, I started out working on iMac. Not the one that's out right now, but the previous generation, the big rounded aluminum back.
Okay.
And learned a ton of technique of manufacturing and tolerances, and just the ability to go in and really judge design and form and proportion at a really, really high level, with lots of actual physical models and things, sort of traditional design processes we'd done in school, but just on a completely another level.
Yeah, with the resources that Apple had, I'm sure it was.
Right.
Yeah. And you came in and hit the ground running at Apple?
First day. Yeah.
Designing the first day when you got there. Wow.
Yeah, so I was in the sculpting team. So there's a lot of industrial designers. Some of us were specific, so I kind of carried through my Pixar computer graphics expertise into a sculpting group.
When you were at Pixar, you weren't an industrial designer. You were, a character creator. Like, what was your,
I came up with a title, and my manager, Eben Alsby, at the time was like, yeah, okay, that's fine. It was Chief Industrial Visualizer and Animation Scientist.
Chief Industrial
Visualizer.
Visualizer. Industrial visualizer.
Which makes no sense at all.
Okay. Okay.
When you're a Pixar.
Wow. You could just sort of use your imagination.
Yeah.
Wow. Because like, is that type of animation design work like industrial design? Because to me, I mean, like, okay, if I were to ask you, Gary, what is industrial design? What would you say?
What is industrial design? It's taking an idea for a product and bringing it to life, bringing it to the physical space, working with engineering to figure out how manufacturing is going to work, how parts are going to be developed and made within cost. And then working with marketing, with all the other departments within a company to visualize it and to present it. But on a higher level, it's really, how do you take something that's physical and make it an experience that brings joy to your life? You use a phone every day, you use a computer every day, you use a car. All these things are designed by humans, and really they should be elevating your life experience and helping you in some way. So if a designer come in and be the person who fights for the human side of things, can say, we don't need that, we don't need this, simplify, clean it up, make it easy to use, make it intuitive, make it feel good in your hand, make it something that you want to hold on to for a long time. So I brought in a little model, or a little prop, this old camera. If you can do something like this, which 50 years later, this is from 1958, is still beautiful, and we're not going to be shooting with it necessarily, but we could.
Wow, it's heavy.
Heavy.
Is there film in here?
No.
Wow, it's heavy. Hold it up here. Yeah. It's really heavy. What is it? Is this metal?
Yeah, it's all aluminum, chromed aluminum.
Wow.
But I take a lot of inspiration from this and a lot of 50s automotive design.
We have some inspiration pieces, mood board, if you will. You want to talk us through some of the images that we prepped for this? Colin, you want to pull them up? Yeah. All right, let's see. Yeah, because my next question was going to be like, who is your inspiration? Where do you draw, pun intended, inspiration from? So who is this gentleman?
Strother McMinn. He was an automotive designer in the 50s. He taught at Art Center for many, many years.
Did you have him as a professor?
Yes. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. So you knew him.
Yeah. End of his career. But incredible man, and incredible attention to detail that he instilled in all of us.
So he helped shape the person that you are today.
Yeah. There were a bunch. Joe Farr was another one.
Okay.
Andy Ogden. There's this list.
Are they in this little slideshow we have? Go to the next one. No. Okay. We could just go through some of these pictures again.
Yeah.
We can talk through these.
Inspiration.
The inspiration. This is just straight inspiration. You see this, and it makes you feel something.
Yeah, I mean, don't you want to be driving that down the coast, Amalfi Coast?
Absolutely. What is that car?
53 Ferrari 250 Mille Miglia.
That's a Ferrari. Wow.
All handmade. There are craftsmen here with hammers and aluminum. They're sculpting all these shapes.
Wow. Wow, that's a nice car. I did not know that was a Ferrari. Okay. Next you go, I have one of those.
No.
Wow, that's what the Ferrari typeface was back then? That's sort of like scripts. Yeah.
The softness of that little flap and all the elements sort of arranged in really perfect proportion. The attention to detail is just incredible, in this little thing. So yeah, inspiration from
Does that say Pininfarina?
Pininfarina, yes.
Because that firm person, wasn't it a person?
Yeah.
That's like a design firm
Yeah.
house, They do a lot of different supercars now these days.
Right.
I when I was in New York, I saw a Pininfarina Battista, which is like a car that they design that's like but they have done dozens of cars, right?
Yeah, for a very long time.
Yeah.
Great design.
Yeah. Wow.
parade shots. You know, you can just
Wow.
imagine what life was like driving something like that around.
I would love to experience life back then with minimal technology. You know, you go to the local, you know, whatever mom and pop shop to get your little groceries, and you know, you turn on the radio when you get home, and wow, that's like the Americana sort of vibe
Right.
that I'm getting from
Yeah.
that. Okay, Gary, we were looking at a chair. What is this chair?
I had the pleasure of working with Naoto Fukazawa, who is a Japanese designer who's very well known. He was at IDEO shortly, and I learned so much from him.
Wow.
It's one of the pieces that he's done, which is just, to me, this gorgeous, simple, sculpted piece of...
It's wood, right?
Yeah,
It's wood.
yeah.
Wow. Do you have one of those?
No.
No. Okay. So is that art, or that's like a piece of furniture?
I mean, it's perfectly handcrafted furniture that
So
has...
when you're saying handcrafted, Gary, he's sanding that down and cutting and doing the geometry of all that stuff and the radius of the back and...
I think that's what we're... Obviously, everything's machine made these days, but what we're trying to do is create the human element to it. So we're using tools to make things feel like they're hand sculpted. So the Ferrari is hand sculpted, but
Literally built by hand.
yeah. But if you have to do a million of them, you can't.
Yeah, good
So
luck.
you figure out, you find tools, you find processes that will help you get to that point, so that it feels like it's something that's really handcrafted.
I see. Okay. Is that chair like for sale today? Like,
Yeah.
Can you buy that?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. All right. What's next?
Another Fukazawa piece. Really simple, clean.
That's a disc player?
CD player,
It's
yeah.
a CD player.
Mounts on your wall.
Oh, that's clean. Wow. And that cable is the audio for it, I'm guessing?
Power, I think.
Power
Yeah,
for it.
right.
Okay. Looks like Nest Protect. Also kind of looks like a Mac Mini. I mean, it's a square, so it looks like a square. But yeah, wow. I feel like it's like if I had to guess, like it's not Sony because of all the holes, but like it feels like Sony in a sense. I feel like they had that record player, that really cool like vertically standing record player. Sony had that back in the day. All right, what's next? Oh wow, literally sculpting, right?
So I believe that's Joe on the left. He was a model shop teacher at school. But this gets back to the whole thing of craftsmanship, is, you know, taking clay by hand and creating shapes that really feel right. And I think that brings an intuitive level of quality and attention to detail to something.
Like human made
Yes. Yeah.
versus like, well, I guess the human element is still there when you're designing in, you know, 3D on a computer, but it's even more human when you're taking your hands and creating something.
Right.
And then they go and build the car to the spec of the sculpture.
Right. Take measurements, take sections. You know, in those days, that's how they would do that, I believe. They would take molds off of parts.
And that was, what car company is this? Is this GM?
Good question. This might have been at Art Center, actually.
At the school you went to?
Yeah.
Wow. And you found these images on Google?
These are, Art Center archive
Wow,
images.
so cool.
Yeah.
Okay, what's next? Oh, yeah. Okay, now we're getting to the juicy bits here. And we have one of these right here. Colin, if you want to go back to my camera right here. So Gary helped bring this to life. This is correct me if I'm wrong, it's for the original Apple Watch, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you press these two. Hopefully you can see like this. Wow. It's metal, right? I feel like now most of Apple's bracelets, the wristbands, are like mesh. I don't even know if they still sell these. But Gary helped bring this thing to life back at Apple for the original Apple Watch, right?
Right.
This was for the
Original
original.
launch.
Yeah, because if you look at the back of that thing, it just says Apple Watch, and now it says Series whatever. Okay, what's next? Some more shots of the thing. Yeah, these are just like Apple promo press materials. Yeah, the top right one I remember seeing, like, I mean, I had the original Apple Watch. just remember seeing that side profile shot, and I'm just like, yep, I want it. And here we are, 7, 8 generations later, still got it. Okay, what's next? If you could see that that's an iPad, it's, I mean, it looks like a lot of different things, but that is the iPad Pro.
Right.
So you helped design the iPad Pro.
I worked on the iPad Pro.
Worked on the iPad Pro.
It's really hard to say that you designed something at Apple. Yeah.
Yeah. There's lots of people that are there doing these things behind the scenes. Okay, what's next? Ooh, okay, Mac Mini.
Mac Mini. Yeah, these are really fun projects because, first of all, again, back to the people. I mean, I worked with a designer, Daniele, who was this incredible, wonderful human being, and we just made the whole process fun. So you get into every single detail in the fans and the board and the speaker, and inside as much detail as the outside.
Wow, and it just, you get this just beautiful. I mean, that's a look inside the bottom of it with the cap taken off, but from the top side, it's just this, undeniably simple and beautiful product, and it's just like, yeah, it's pretty cool to be sitting across from you knowing that your brain and hands helped, bring some of these things into reality. It's pretty nuts. It really is pretty nuts. This is a tear down of, this was which Mac Mini, Gary?
This is the last, this is 2018, I believe.
So that was before the transition to the M chips.
Yeah.
Last Intel machine. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Wow. I think there's another, is there another image? No, that's it. That's the last one.
That's it.
Okay. So we can go back to my camera now. I'm trying to think of, during your time at Pixar compared to your time at Apple, such different ways of doing things, but the experiences you had and the things you learned, like all of those things add up, to where you are today. So it's like, it's interesting to think of, the Gary Schultz that was the punk rocker, like just innocently applying for a job at Pixar, and then like you had never, it's always so fascinating to think of like, some people, they go to a job that they, it's like if you're, I don't know, I'm trying to think of like any job under the sun. It's like if you've done that already and then you could go and do it somewhere else. But then there's like the other side of that, that's like you were never a Pixar character, scientist, whatever words you used before, and then you just go in and you are learning as you're doing, which I find fascinating, like what was if you can, put yourself back in your shoes, in your brain of like, before you were an animator at Pixar, I mean, it's not even fair to call you an animator, designer at Pixar, and then like what are the things that you were able to take away from that, and then like that sort of springboarded you to Apple, because maybe the same sort of fears and reservations of like, oh man, Apple, super high standards, like insane craftsmanship, like what was your mind going into Pixar, and then post Pixar it's like, oh, I've got all this experience, and then boom, you're back at square one going to Apple. So talk me through some of like your mindset.
Yeah, I guess both times it was just learning from scratch again. Being willing to take that risk to start over.
But it's like it's leveling up at the same time as it is starting over in a sense,
Right.
It's weird how that works. You go to a new place, you have a clean slate, you're starting over, but at the same time, it's like you're embarking on a new adventure.
Right. But you have a lot of little experiences along the way. I had a chance to do lighting on Bug's Life, which was something I'd never done before. And
lighting?
Because we were so short-staffed, everyone had to do it. And so
you just learned on the fly?
You just jump in and you've got people who were there who will show you different ways of doing things, and they give you, a shot that's already kind of set up with master lighting. And so you absorb, you sit in the room while other reviews are going on.
Wow.
That was the thing that they taught us about being at art center is when you go into a class and you put your work up on the wall, the important thing was not to fall asleep while they're going and critiquing everyone else's work, but actually to look at the things that were being picked out and see that how that could apply to whatever you're doing. So by the time they actually got to your work, you knew exactly what you had to do. And the same thing applied at Pixar. You go into these lighting reviews with a director, and you'd hear them talking about, let's bring the fill around a little bit. Let's bring the key here. I want the character to feel like they're coming from this direction, or the focus should be over here. And so you pick up on that stuff. And the next time you start working on shot lighting, you make all those adjustments ahead of time. And
I get the feeling, Gary, that the jobs that you've been lucky enough to have were fun.
Yes.
Right? You get to have fun, which
Definitely.
I feel like is such a sort of like morale booster, where it's like you wake up every day and you go to Pixar and you're like, I'm creating these animated characters and that is my job.
Yeah. There's nothing like working on something and then seeing it on screen, or
Yeah, that's also crazy.
even a physical object that's finished is one thing, but when you see a lot of little models that are laying in the studio, you walk in the design studio and you see models laid out. It's like, wow, this is a physical, real, tangible thing that someone's going to be using, and
well, it's this, I think the same sort of thing applies, right? It's like this is a thing that someone's going to be using, and this is a thing that's going to bring people joy. Well, the Apple products definitely bring people joy and people are using, but the it's just like the medium is inherently different, right? One thing is like a movie that you go see and it's like a family experience maybe, or you go and buy it on DVD or something, you watch it a few times, and that brings a certain kind of joy to people.
Yeah.
Versus creating products that people are like, you're not watching A Bug's Life every day, but
Yeah.
that seeing it like I saw a comment before on the stream, someone was like, oh, Gary worked on all these movies that influenced my childhood.
Oh, wow.
And it's like, it's crazy how they're so inherently different. Again, one thing is a movie that you probably watch once, but it can have a lifetime of impact versus something like this. This could feel like someone, it's like you don't even think twice about it. You just put it on and it works, it functions. But so much thought goes into something like this. I don't know. It's so crazy to think about, like, such stark differences of working at a company like Apple. Is it in here or it's this? Where is it? It's in here? Yeah, the mount.
In here?
In
That
here.
That guy will slide out, yeah.
This guy slides out. Whoa. Okay, so this is another thing that Gary had a hand in. This
Yeah.
is the...
It's a VESA mount for an iMac Pro.
Okay, for the iMac Pro.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Oh, hence why it's like the space gray anodized
gray,
aluminum. Yep. I was actually at the event here in San Francisco.
Wow.
It must have been 2016 or 2017.
Yeah.
I saw AirPower. I saw iMac Pro. And I remember looking at the computer and I was like, dang, that dark aluminum looks so good.
Yeah.
I think that was, the iPhone 5. It's funny, I just saw a tweet the other day that was like, this is the nicest iPhone ever designed. And Apple called it Slate back in the day. It was the Slate iPhone 5. And then I think they changed the name because the anodization left like a ton of because your skin's naturally oily. And I've seen I went back and looked like some of the, gadget blog photos of comparing the 5 to the 5S and the different tones of gray. And it's like, yeah, there's people at Apple that spent a really long time thinking about just the color of the product, and I guess again the same sort of thing applies to the attention that goes into animating characters or creating characters. It's so crazy for me to think that people like you, Gary, you are in almost a literal sense breathing life into these characters. It's like, oh, let's make the eyes bigger and then change the emotion and then the eyebrows furrow in this sort of way, and then all of that attention to detail, someone goes, okay, we're rendering this and we're shipping this and it's going to be shown on theaters around the world and it's done. And then you get that probably like I don't even know what it feels like a rush. You know, it's like I have some YouTube videos that have been seen a few million times, but I've never had a movie, you know, shown around the world that, you know, Toy Story is a staple, you know, in terms of like the Pixar animated universe in a sense. Cars as well, you know, it's like they're effectively like part of culture. They're memes, and in a similar way that these products also are touched by hundreds of millions, you know, billions around the world. Yeah, it's got to feel pretty gratifying, huh?
Yeah, definitely.
To wake up every day. And I mean, now you're coming here doing, you know, industrial design and Humane. We won't go into too much detail. You work on hardware here.
Yes.
And at some point, mark my words, we will be on the stream with, you know, I mean, I've had already so many people on the stream that have, you know, contributed to what we're working on here in such different ways. It's pretty awesome to, you know, from my, you know, on the inside look, you know, knowing what I know about what the work you do here.
Yes.
And it just paints such an awesome picture. And I know I'm teasing and I know I'm dancing around this, but for me, and you'll see eventually stream it paints such an awesome picture. Now I feel like I can look at your work and have like a newfound appreciation for the attention and the craftsmanship and just like the, you know, we're making products for human beings to use. You know, it's like we're not making machines that are being used by machines, you know. We're making, you know, objects and things that are going to be used by people. And so yeah, I want to we have like 8 minutes left before it becomes 1 o'clock. I want to just see just want to see if I question for Gary, what techniques do you apply to overcome a creative block? Probably go on vacation, right? Maybe take a break, walk away, you know, right? That's like, I don't want to answer for you, but Gary, what would you say?
Yeah, definitely music, break.
Music.
You know, sometimes you just need to sit and sketch and draw, just by.
So put the computer away and get back to the analog.
I think there are definitely times when you just need to put the computer away and just sit and draw and get a piece of paper, cut things out. It's a similar. This will make you laugh, Colin. It's a similar metaphor of like go touch grass, you know, where it's like put the machine away, go back to the basics, maybe go stare into the sun for a little bit, you know, feel the photons hitting your skin and just like have a little reset. Yeah. Okay, let me see what else. The claw. Yeah, so people know. When will we know more about what Humane is doing this year? Can't wait.
I hope Gary made the Humane device with small hammers. Yeah, Gary actually took a marble block and started chiseling away. Imagine.
Miniature hammers.
It's pretty impressive to see some of those sculptures in museums and to think those were made hundreds of years ago by hand with zero computers. Well, actually, I can't say that for sure because of ancient civilizations, but like to think that, you know, Colin's laughing. To think that really the techniques that were used hundreds of years ago, like still stand up in today's modern society. You know, it just makes you have an even deeper appreciation because, like, yeah, you could tell a computer to go take a robot arm and go laser cut something like that, but the painstaking work that went into some of those marble sculptures is insane. What would you say to an aspiring industrial designer, Mr. Gary? Asks Daniel Mahaffey, I think.
Daniel, I would say study and learn. Find a few designers who really inspire you.
Study and learn. What does that mean?
I mean, go look at their work and really study it. Don't just think you're looking at it. Really study it. Sit down, draw it. You know, Mark Newsom's an incredible designer. Take a look at his website, grab a few of his products, draw them, and really analyze what are you looking at. Because you think you see something, but you don't really see it. And so you really dive in deep. And then take all those concepts, all those principles, and apply them to whatever design that you're working on too. Don't get caught up in the flashy rendering and all of that stuff. Just find the basics, simplify.
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 Yeah, simple is better.
Is he the only designer there? No, there's a handful of designers, different kinds of designers too. There's product designers, there's industrial designers, there's product designers. Okay, I think this is a good place to end it. Gary, thank you for the time.
Thank you.
Thank you for your hard work. Thank you for bringing joy to, I can't even name a number, from your Apple days and from the Pixar days. Like, I saw Toy Story in theaters, I saw Bug's Life in theaters, and those are memories that, I know that I personally carry, and I'm sure, like, a lot of people watching this, it's inspiring. It really is inspiring to have you here working on, the things that we're doing here. It's really cool.
Thanks. What a pleasure.
So thank you. This is available for replay. So if you missed it or you're just joining, you can go. It will be burned onto my YouTube channel forever. Also, Colin wanted me to mention the Q&A in Discord. Lily is answering some questions. So post your questions in the Discord. I'll post another Discord invite link today on Twitter so you can get in if you're not in the Discord yet. Bug's Life is one of my favorite movies. Amazing. Thank you for saying that, Ronnie. That's awesome. And yeah, we will be back next week. I'm traveling to New York at the end of next week, so there will not be a stream on Friday. So either probably Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, there will be another stream, but I will let you know. Thank you, everyone. I can hit end stream on my end, Colin, here. And then you click end on OBS.
Thank you, guys.
Gary, thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye,
Colin.
stream. I'll see you next week.